Hello, my name is Treva Hamm, and I just want to share the story of my health, and hopefully, this will help somebody in the future. Um, I have not been diagnosed with MS by a medical professional. However, I've been told it's most likely MS by a medical professional, and I'm a huge researcher. And in all of my research, with all of my history and my symptoms and MS, then I've got like 95%. Everything is completely synonymous. So I'm just going to briefly start with some of my symptoms that I've had. Um, in about 1995. Today is April 17th, 2025. So this was 30 years ago. I was diagnosed with what they called lupus-like syndrome and also with chronic fatigue syndrome and also with nerve damage in my arms and hands and especially my fingers. There was no reason for that. I had never done anything to injure myself. And whenever I talked to the doctor, the only solution he had was to put me on some prescription drugs. And I asked him the side effects, and he actually looked it up and read them off to me. And I said, well, this has a lot worse side effects and more side effects than what I'm feeling. And he said, you're right. And he's like, so I'm taking it. You don't want the drugs? And I said, no, I don't want to take them. He said, you know what? I don't blame you. So I didn't do anything about it. I did actually start a health journey researching for myself. I'm like, there's got to be something else if prescription drugs aren't the answer. And if doctors can't do anything really besides that, what else is there? So that started me on a health journey I've been on for about 30 years. I like to say I'm a health nut wannabe, but I'm definitely not excellent at it. My husband's the complete opposite, and we balance each other perfectly, but it makes it difficult. And not he, but just the situation. And, my willpower is not as excellent as it should be. So it is, it's not easy for me to eat right all the time and things like that. However, my favorite hobby is to learn, and my second favorite hobby is to teach. And I feel like the Lord gave me a gift of teaching. And so I want to use that. And I have been learning everything I can get my hands on um, in the holistic health world. And I became a certified holistic health coach and also oh, my mind just went blank on what they're called. That's one of my symptoms is memory. So I'll get a little bit deeper into that in a little bit. But personal health coach, just I just really care about health and I care about people and I want to help people to be better because I believe that the Lord God, our creator, made our body to be his temple. And so we need to treat our temple as though it's his and not ours, because it is. And we're just temporarily here. I won't preach, but biblical knowledge is another one of my passions. And unfortunately, with all of these symptoms and difficulties, my memory going, those are the two things that I am the saddest about, not being able to retain and recall the vast amount of things that I've learned, both biblically and in the health world. And so that's really hard, but there's hope. I'm gonna just go through and tell you some of the symptoms that I've had, and hopefully it'll help somebody out there. I have had like UTIs and things like that since really since started noticing some after I got married at 18. Um, I developed endometriosis after my second child, and we have four children together and 10 grandkids. And so, um, having endometriosis, of course, at that time, I still had kids at home. I was 34 whenever it got so bad that I just couldn't deal with it anymore. At that time, the I used the best well-known OB-GYN in my city, and he said to date I had the worst case of endometriosis he had ever seen when he gave me a complete total hysterectomy, took everything out, and of course you wake up with this synthetic hormone patch on you, which did not work well with me at all. So I'm a huge researcher. So I researched, I found a natural cream hormone through a more naturopathic-ish medical doctor. And so I started on that. And then years later, I discovered the bioidentical hormone pellets. And I've been on the BioT pellets for going on 9 years. So I don't know if it's time to do something else there or not. But I had Bell's palsy at one point, and of course, this whole right side of my face did not work. That's been about 15 years ago. Um, I'm reading my list because my memory, I have to write things down as I remember them. So I've never had arthritis, and but I have had like knee pain where I had to wear a knee brace, but then it would go away, and uh, then it would come back and go away. And to my knowledge, arthritis doesn't just go away and cause zero issues. So I've been mostly healthy these past 30 years because I've mostly chosen a healthy lifestyle with what I eat, what I drink, being active. And but I have always had moments, which now I think were flare-ups, but I didn't know anything about that then. When I was at my worst back in 95, I literally, like, if I took a shower that day, that was all I could do all day. If I cleaned the kitchen, picked up the house and did laundry, that was it. That was a struggle. It was a struggle to get off my couch and to do things. And I found this super blue green algae. I started taking that. And I also started taking acidophilus and bifidus, which in, 1995, 96, 97-ish, we had never heard of probiotics. I didn't even know that word. Even when I was taking it, I didn't know what that was. But that helped me. That and changing the way that I eat and beginning to eat clean, eat organic. I really didn't know about organics probably until 2001 or so. And I started just trying to eat clean food, real food, food that God made, and not processed foods, not junk foods, things like that. So that's why I've basically lived a normal, healthy, active life with times that I'm just down and out and I don't know why. I just don't feel good today. It might be this issue, might be that issue. And that's just been my life. Mainly a ton of migraines. I've gone through probably realistically, no exaggeration, I would guess maybe 40, 45 pillows and maybe about 7 or 8 mattresses in the last 15 years. So, new mattress every 2-ish years. That's not very good track record there, but I've just tried everything to not be in pain at night and with headaches and migraines and neck issues. Um, Also, I've always, as far back as I can remember, and I don't know if this is normal or not, nobody else has ever told me, but I have little, I don't know if they're floaters or what, in my vision. I remember when I was a small child and I asked my brother, I said, when you just like stare at something without looking at it, can you see those little squigglies like it's in a microscope? And he just looked at me like I was weird. And if he answered me, I don't remember. But I've always been able to see those in my eyes. And that's just one of my symptoms I wrote down. Um, Tinnitus, ringing in my ears. Most of the time, it's kind of in the background. I really don't notice it, but sometimes it is so loud and so annoying, and I can't escape it. It just takes over my whole head and ears, and it's hard to hear other things. I've never had very good hearing. I did have busted eardrums when I was little, so that's probably reason why. But I don't have very excellent hearing at all. After uh, the birth of my second child again, I started having symptoms of hypothyroidism, and doctor after doctor would take my blood and say, "Oh no, you're normal. Oh no, you're normal. No, you're normal." Finally, I found a doctor who said, normal, you're at the very, very, very lowest number you can be and still be in the normal zone. And since that time, they've changed that. So I would be considered low, way low back then. But he ran some tests on me. He did a dye test and he diagnosed me with hypothyroidism, goiter, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So I got on synthetic hormone at that point in time. And then we moved to another city and I found a new doctor. He said, "That's impossible. No, nobody can have those three things at the same time." He ran all the same tests. He's like, "Oh my word, you do. You actually do have all of those." So I continued synthetic hormone, not hormone, synthetic thyroid, which is a hormone, but synthetic thyroid for a long time. And then I just wanted to do natural. So I began researching and um, finally got on a natural thyroid, which to this date, I'm not on any thyroid because it was causing heart issues. I'm not even going to go into my heart stuff, but I saw an electrocardia um, cardiologist specialist, and he worked with me and weaned me down completely off of my thyroid. But another thing I've had is twitching in my face, especially when I'm really tired, and twitching in my left eye. And I've just noticed my vision is it's weird because when I go to an eye doctor and, blink and look and take my time, then I'm 20/40. I had LASIK in 2001, I think, and I can see pretty good, I guess. But I mean, he said I had 20/20, but that I used to have 20/15. So I don't know where the 20/40 came from, but 20/20. But I don't see well. I mean, people that don't have near that good a vision. They can see things better than me. But a lot of it now is because I had a brain incident last June of 24. And I kind of don't want to go into all those details, but just in case it does help somebody, I had been working on my computer, had my blue light glasses on, and then I went over to my daughter's house who lives across the street. And um, I was looking at her phone and I was like, "What's wrong with your phone? I can't even see the screen." And she said, "What are you talking about?" And then I looked back at my computer and it was really wonky. It was just, oh, I couldn't hardly focus. I couldn't see it really. Then I looked over at her daughter and there were three of her. There was one close, there was one far, but then it blended and there was one in the middle. And I said, "Something's wrong. Something's wrong with my vision. Maybe it's these glasses." So I took those glasses off and I'm like, "No, it's not that." And then I couldn't really think real clear. And so I was like, I have to go home. So I came back across the street and I thought, do I need to call Marty, my husband, or am I okay? I thought, well, maybe I just need to eat because I was feeling kind of busy. I started feeling like, oh, another thing in the past, I had hyperventilation. And not all the time, of course, but I had several episodes for, oh, maybe a couple of years. I would just have an episode of hyperventilation. And I started feeling like my tongue was feeling like that, where it tingles, and just my vision. Oh, my word, my vision was so off. So I thought, I need to eat. Maybe I'm just hungry. So I started making me some toast. I buy organic grain and I grind my own grain and I make my own bread. Nearly every single thing everything I cook and buy and have in my pantry is all organic, clean food. Now I'll go and I'll eat out and I'll choose the best of all of the bad stuff out there. And in my city, we don't have any healthy option restaurants or places. But anyway, back to my story. So I was making my toast and I was thinking, I've got to call Marty. Well, right then he called and I said, "Something's wrong with my brain. I can't think. My eyes are messed up." And he said, "I'm near the house. I'm coming home." So he came home and he said, "We need to go to the emergency room." I said, "No, I think I just need to eat." And so I was sitting down eating, and he told me later that I was getting everything out of the freezer. I guess I was looking for something to eat. I don't know. I didn't remember that I had done that. But I was eating and I looked over at our digital picture frame our kids got us, and our two of our grandkids were up, and I wanted to say, "What are their names?" But I could not make myself think of the word name. I couldn't make that sentence. And so I asked Marty, I said, what are they? What are they right there?" He said, "What are what?" And I said, "Right there." And he said, "What do you, I don't know what you're asking me." And I said, "Our two oldest grandkids, what are they?" And he said, "Jackie and Dylan." And I just started crying because one, I couldn't think of my words. Two, I couldn't remember my grandkids' names. And when he said Dylan, I thought, yeah, okay, that's Dylan. When he said Jackie, he might as well have said table. I knew it was a word, a frequent word that I knew and was familiar with, but it did not go with my granddaughter. And that was just so hard to not know my grandkid's name. And so if it hadn't have been Marty telling me that, I would have thought someone's just playing a prank on me. There's no way that word goes with our grandchild. And it took me about 3 or 4 days for it to just be like, yes, duh, of course she's Jackie. But before that, I was I slowly was like, yeah, maybe so. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Is that right? It just took a while. But when we were driving to the hospital, now I'm hoping that didn't mess up my whole video. I guess my screensaver comes on. I don't know why. When we were driving to the hospital, I couldn't see out of this left eye. My vision was wonky, but I did know some things. Like I knew I was supposed to take his sister to the her doctor appointment that day. Told him call her, tell her I can't. I knew things, but then other things I didn't know. I couldn't name our grandkids. I was trying to go down the list. We have 10. I was trying to go down in age order instead of family order because that's easier. And he had to help me get through some. And then the last two that I see the most often live across the street and just, they're the most frequent. I could not say their names. And again, I was just crying. And we went into the hospital and I could not see, I had zero peripheral vision, zero. And anyway, they ran all the tests on me, everything. The dye, CT scan, they ran an MRI, they kept me overnight. And this was like on a Monday or Tuesday. I had been water skiing Saturday before. I slalom on the water skis. I'm very active. I ride my own cruiser, Harley motorcycle. I mean, play with the grandkids. I'll have summer camp where I have all the grandkids, the six young ones still, and you know, and then all of a sudden I have this, and I'm dizzy. I feel like I'm hyperventilating. And I asked Marty, am I hyperventilating? He said, no, you're calm. You're not breathing weird. You're totally not hyperventilating. But I still had that sensation. And they could not find anything. They did my heart, the carotid arteries, everything was perfect. My blood work was wonderful, best it's been, I guess, since I've ever been getting blood work. It was amazing. And they couldn't find anything. Well, before they would dismiss me the next day, the ophthalmologist came by and he examined my eyes. They were good. And then he was asking me, and when I told him about the triple vision, he said, "Oh, that's a TIA." He said, "That's the only thing it could be." He said, "That definitely um, means it's a TIA." So then they stamped TIA on my records, but I've learned since then that that's also a symptom of MS. I didn't know that, but so maybe it was a TIA. Maybe there was a plaque that went and disappeared and it was gone. I don't know. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was um, a flare up from MS and doing that with my eyes. And that was in June. In September, it happened again, but not nearly as severe. I almost didn't go to the hospital because I was like, no, no, my vision, I think it's going to be okay. And then I started trying to name the grandkids and I couldn't. And I said, okay, let's go. Well, we just went to the parking lot. By the time we got there, it's about a 5-minute drive, maybe seven in traffic. Um, I was naming all 10 of the grandkids in age order, and I was starting to see in my peripheral. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I can tell you just looked at me when he's over here at the side. I said, my vision's back. So we sat in the parking lot about 25, 30 minutes, and I was totally normal as I am right now. So we came back home. Um, so then I've just been fine. I've been fine, except for my memory. That really did a number on my memory. And they told me it would take me about 6 months that my memory would come back. And but then after 6 months, whatever it was, that's what it would be from now on. And y'all, in the beginning, I like one time I was trying to put on a t-shirt and I had to concentrate how to put it on without it being backwards. Really concentrate and hold it and look at it and think through the process. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And then I put it on and it was backwards. And I just sat in my closet floor and started crying. And then I was like, okay, no, that's not going to help anything. Attitude is most of what gets you going. So then I would have other incidences where I would have something that goes in the fridge, and I would think, does this go in the fridge or the pantry? The fridge or the pantry? And really, really just concentrate and think about, no, this goes in the fridge. I've got to walk over there and pull that door open, and that's how to get it in there. And then I would walk to the pantry and put it in there, and then I would just start crying. But now, um, I'll have little incidences like that. Like I've just got other things on my mind, and I guess that's normal. It's normal for me. It was normal for me beforehand. Whenever you're just busy multitasking and you've got something and walk over to the pantry and like, oh brother, that doesn't go in the pantry. Go stick it in the fridge. So that's the point that I'm at now and where I have been. Um, Although the other week I was baking some sweet potato pancakes and I opened the pantry and I knew I needed, well, for one thing, I had to look at my recipe, which normally I don't look at my recipe because I make them often enough, but I had to look at it because my memory was just flaring up. And I thought baking powder. I know what baking powder is since I was in elementary, but I opened the cabinet door and I said, honey, I don't know what baking powder is. What is it? And he walked over and he moved an item out of the way and I saw the container it comes in. I was like, oh, I remember now. I see that container. I remember. But then right after that, I knew immediately, okay, I need 4 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons is a tablespoon. So 1 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon. And so my brain could really think of that, but it couldn't remember what baking powder was. So anyway, that's my memory. And the hardest part of my memory is I am a huge, 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 huge researcher. My favorite hobby is to teach, and my next favorite hobby is to learn. And I have learned so much about the health and wellness field because after I was diagnosed and there was no answer, I really started learning and learning about health and learning about wellness. And I just wanted everybody to feel good and I wanted to share everything I learned with everybody. And so I gained a ton of health knowledge and I became a certified holistic health coach. And um, I just I think I already said that. See my memory. Oh, anyway, I have lost a lot of that knowledge, and I've lost a lot of my biblical knowledge. And that's another area that I just crave to learn and to teach. And it's just not there. And people will ask me biblical things. They always have. And now I'm like, I don't know right now. Now later I might remember, but it's just hard. It's really hard to not have that. But it's going to come back, and I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. And I'm trying to hurry through this, so let me just get through. After that brain incident, I've got a steady spot in my eye. It just looks like a big gray cloud, but it just there and I can still see, I still drive, but it's just there. Sometimes it's worse than others, and I can't even work on my computer or be on my phone because I just can't focus. I can't see. And I started being dizzy and I used to not say all the time, but this just the scanning speech and slurring sometimes. I'll try so hard to think of how to say what I want to say, and then I'll have to pause and process and then change the way I'm saying it so that it will make sense. I'll say something to my husband and he'll give me that look, and then I'll think, okay, what's another way of me saying this where he will understand me? So I think that word is pronounced Desarthra. I can't say it. Anyway, um, also, I started getting tremors. My hand will just shake for no reason, at both of my hands, and it doesn't matter caffeine, no caffeine, it doesn't matter. And uh, then I started getting shoulder pain. Well, I work out normally. I work out at the gym. I do hit 3 times a week, and I've been just getting stronger, healthier, and all of this. Well, my shoulders started hurting, and I thought, man, I must have worked out wrong or something. But then it didn't ease up. It just got worse and worse and worse. And then this shoulder, I couldn't sleep on my side. Even if I slept on my left side, it would hurt my right shoulder. And then I developed a knot right here. And I also had a knot in my armpit. So I went to my practitioner, and she ordered, ultrasound on both, and nothing. They said we can feel it, we can see it, but nothing picks up on the ultrasound. So I wanted to get this scanned. Well, I won't do a mammogram. That's just me. Not telling you not to, but just the fact that it's inconclusive whether it causes cancer or not was enough for me to say, I'm not going to do that. I've never had a mammogram, but I wanted to get a thermography scan. So instead of doing just my breast, I decided to do my whole body, and neither one showed anything was there or wrong with me. But I did show a lot of inflammation. My sinuses, I have just sinus pressure and breathing issues a lot. It showed inflammation in my ear and in my jaw and my knees and my intestines, and just a lot. I had a whole lot of inflammation. And so then I was, with my husband. We love to work outside at the lake and just, maintenance out there. So I was cutting down some briars. We were taking down this dead tree. And that night, this knuckle started hurting so bad. And like I said, I've never had arthritis issues. And that just started hurting. I thought, well, maybe I got a thorn, or maybe something bit me. And I looked, and there was no sore, nothing visible. And by that night, this whole finger hurt so bad. I wanted to cry. And I barely got my wedding rings off. And I always wear my wedding rings 24/7, unless I've taken them off to clean them. I wear my wedding rings. And I barely got it off. I haven't been able to wear it since then. This whole hand started swelling up, and I thought, what in the world did I do? Well, then the next weekend when we were there again, then I started hurting and aching again, and I thought, man, is there mold in this house? What in the world? We've had this place for 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. And I've never had issues. 5.5 years, nearly. I've never had issues. And so what is the deal? Well, then all of my all my extremities, my arms and my legs, it felt like, those compression bags, like you can put the vacuum cleaner and suck out the air. It felt like somebody was sucking out the moisture in all of my arms, legs, hands. And I drink a lot of water. I drink like 3 or 4 of these. I think that's a 32 ounce a day. And I put the real salt, the Redmond real salt in there, um, on the light. two of them. So stay very well hydrated. So I knew it wasn't dehydration, but they just hurt, and it's not like it wasn't like a muscle cramp that tenses up. It wasn't really like that. It was like dryness was crawling through all of my muscles and not allowing them to be normal. And I started losing my mobility. I couldn't hardly walk, very bad pain. And that lasted a couple of days. Well, I started right that minute. I got online, I started researching. And I was like, and my joints were hurting. So then everything was saying RA. And I thought, but it's not RA. RA doesn't come on in one day and hurt this bad, out of the blue. It's something that progresses. And just everything I looked up, I was like, and I even looked up MS. And let me just say, way back in 95-ish, whenever I was doing so bad and terrible, and that's when I was diagnosed with the lupus-like syndrome and the chronic fatigue syndrome and the nerve issues. My mother and I both thought, well, I was thinking, oh no, do I have MS? Because my dad's older sister died of MS when I was little bitty, and his brother has had MS probably 45 years. I don't know how long, but for years. And I thought, oh, is this MS? So I looked up some MS symptoms, and just the ones that were listed there are actually, I put my symptoms in a symptom finder thing, and MS was like the fourth thing. Chronic fatigue was high on the list, RA, chronic fatigue syndrome, and think something else, and then MS. And so I had more symptoms of the other things. But that was just this other weekend. But when I was younger, I was thinking, oh my word, I think I might have MS. And then later I found out my mother was thinking the same thing. I think she has MS. But whenever I started doing the super blue green algae, and I also did some acidophilus and bifidus, and back then, there was no such word as probiotic, not to the general public. We had never heard of that. I had no clue that's what I was taking, but that helped me, and I got my energy back, and I was able to function. And that's when I started eating clean and just trying to, take care of my body and my health. And so that's whenever was able to live a normal life with some bouts here and there, which now I think have been flare ups. I think I had the RRMS, the uh, re- remitting, relapsing MS. I think I've had that all these years, and I never knew it because I would have the symptoms, they would come on, and then they would relapse for a long time. Then they would um, I'm sorry, they would remit, they would like be in remission for a long time. And then it would come back, and I would relapse again and have some issues come up, and then it would go back. I never knew all of this was related. I just thought, oh, that's just me. I have something here, and oh, now I've got something there, and oh, now I have this issue. I'm sure it'll go away too. And oh, this is probably from blah, blah, blah. Um, but now I realize that it was the relapsing remitting MS. And even though I haven't had a doctor diagnosis, like I did have that MRI scan last June. So I would like for a neurologist to look at that and see what they think. But, when you have 95% of all the symptoms and they all line up and everything just begins to click, then now I think I'm in a place now where it all just came to a head, and probably is the secondary progressive MS. And I today and a little bit yesterday is the first time I've been able to use this hand, and this arm has just been hurting and aching. My whole left side, I've had muscle weakness. I've had to use a cane, not every day, thank the Lord, but some days I just feel like my tendons, oh goodness, my screen keeps going off. I hope it's not gonna stop this video. I hope it's still recording. But so I need to move my mouse around sometimes, keep my screen awake. But I have had to use a cane because I keep feeling like I, I just know my leg would collapse if I didn't use it. Then I'll have a day where I don't need it. I can walk fine. But let me get back to my symptoms right quick because this is getting too long. I hope you're listening to this and, a speeded up version. Um, that shoulder pain really became extreme and chronic fatigue, like just very.
So, this is the third video I've tried to make today. The first one I recorded a whole hour and it got deleted. I mean, it didn't get deleted, it didn't get recorded somehow. The second one, the sound messed up right there at the end. So, I'm going to briefly just finish up that. I was going through my symptoms. Very chronic fatigue, especially in the evening. I have nothing left in the evenings, and muscle weakness. My muscles, especially on this left side, but even the right, they just get so incredibly tired that I just know my legs won't hold me up any longer. And tired eyes, and I don't mean tired from looking at a screen. I don't mean that kind of tired. I mean these eye muscles. It feels like somebody is just pushing down on my eyes, and it's hard for me to keep my eyes open. And I feel like I need to just do like this to keep the pressure off of my eyes. Spasms, I'll just have random spasms in my legs, like in my calf, or just a spasm, but they don't last. That goes away. The tired eyes is almost constant, but the spasms are not. Balance issues. I'll just be walking and lose my balance totally, or my foot will drag and make me stumble. And not bad, just a little bit. So definitely balance issues. And more than dizziness, I don't just stay dizzy all the time, but sometimes I'll just be at the sink washing dishes and I just have to hold on because the whole world, I can almost see it just spinning, and I just have to hold on. And I'll have to go, I mean, complete vertigo. I'll have to hold on to go sit down and let that pass. I also, on this left arm, I feel like almost like little ants are crawling all over the arm. Just a kind of a burning, kind of a stinging, but not, I can't explain it. Um, that's pretty bad in this arm most of the time. And I have itching that's underneath, and it doesn't help when you scratch it. Again, this one's not all the time either. It just comes and goes. And besides the itching underneath, I also have, like, it almost feels like a hair is laying across your hand, or especially my big toe. It'll feel like there's a hair on it and I need to get it off, but there's nothing there. That one's not constant either. I have these, they're called spine shocks, and it feels like an electric eel just slithering down down my back and down my spine, and I'll have spasms too over on this left side in that flank. And I have weird raw emotions like that make no sense just come up out of the blue, um and face reddening as if I'm embarrassed when I'm not embarrassed. Don't feel embarrassed, nothing embarrassing happened, but my face will just flush and it will sting, um, for no reason. But the raw emotions, I mean, I can just be talking about nothing and just have uncontrollable tears for no reason, or I don't know, it's just weird emotions that I'm not feeling but they're happening, but really raw emotions. And I will say too, one thing that, when I started having the shoulder pain, I found this thing through research. But my husband, he had a torn rotator cuff. So there's this thing that there's a chiropractor here in town that has it. The brand name is Soundwave, and it's shock waves, and it's the big apparatus he holds onto, and the bottom of it's round, and it goes on, and it like and it emits out these shocks. So when it's on a spot that doesn't hurt, then you don't feel it. But if it's on a spot that hurts, then you're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, right there, and then they'll work it right there and get that in. One of the things I found on research was that muscle stimulation can help with MS. So we went yesterday and they did this side, and I was really nervous about getting this side done, and it hurt. It didn't hurt just like that side hurt. It hurt so bad that she had to turn the machine down. But you want them to do as much as you can tolerate. And I like had some few pain tears coming out of my eyeballs. But when she was finished, I have not been able to open and close this hand. I haven't been able to use my left hand at all. And my whole left arm calmed down, and I can use it. I was having to just be very careful where I was setting it down, because it felt like raw nerves. It felt like if my hand was apart and somebody was just coming up with a stinger and touching my nerves. And it's not near, thank the Lord, it's not near like that now. But I'm really happy now that I've already made 2 videos. I can't remember for sure what I said in this, but I'm so happy that there's hope. In all my research, I found the livediseasefree.com website, and I have learned that truly these are parasites. And that might sound gross, and it is gross, but it's real. And so if I already said this, forgive me, but there's like 95 to 99% of people walking around today have parasites. And in MS, they are attacking the nerves. And the medical community thinks it's an autoimmune disease, but I don't believe God created our immune system to attack itself. And sure enough, what is going on is the myelin sheath is like the insulation around your nerves, and the parasites get up in there. And then our immune system is trying to attack those parasites while they're underneath that myelin sheath. And when that myelin sheath is, destroyed, and when those parasites even are in there doing all that work in there on those nerves, it's just excruciating, and it causes all this inflammation. And so the true cause really is parasites. And I've literally spent tons of time in my morning prayer time, and just throughout the day, and as I'm researching, asking the Lord to guide me and to show me answers. And I know that God can heal me, and I know He does heal, but I believe that we have to do our part in that healing. And so I just ask God to show me my part and to lead me to finding some answers to my part. And with all of the research that I have done, and I have looked at doctors that have been healed, and they've changed their eating habits. There might be foods that are like a healthy food, like say blueberries or whatever. They're healthy, but if your body's not digesting them properly, if it's not getting going through and everything working the way God made it to work, then those parasites go in, and then they have a heyday and they multiply and they're active, and you've got inflammation and you have pain, and then you have more, and it's just an ongoing thing. So Pam Bartha, livediseasefree.com, even out of the doctors that I've looked at, the other programs out there, I'm sure there's tons of wonderful, wonderful programs. But for me, this made the most sense. And even though I don't have all of my memory from all of my holistic health training, whenever it is said to me, then I recall, oh, yes, that's right. I do know that. I forgot I knew that, but now I remember that I did know that. And so everything I've heard from her, it makes so much sense. And I am so excited that there is a cure, and the cure is to kill the parasites. And I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to follow her protocol 100%. And my goal is to keep updated videos and pictures, parasites, and things that are going on. So, fair warning, but not in this video. And hopefully I can get these edited okay, and it'll make sense. I truly, 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 my goal is to help people. I want to, this sounds kind of weird and backwards, but I do praise God that He let this happen to me, as hard as it's been, as much tears as I've cried, as much pain as I've been in. I'm really thankful because I have an opportunity to share my story and to help other people, and that is my goal. And I know that Satan means things for evil, but God uses it for good. So we're just excited and looking forward to all of the good that's going to come from it. And I just want to say too, that if you don't know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, I want to help you do that, because He is amazing. Just the fact that He sacrificed everything for us to give us eternal life. There's no other way to eternal life than through Jesus Christ. And when we die on this earth, and we're all going to, we will either spend an eternity in hell, and it's real, or an eternity with the Lord in glory. And that's where I'm going to be. That's where I want you to be. I want to help you get there. And I didn't plan on saying all of that, but that's the truth, and that's the most important thing there is. And that's the best way I can help you. And I hope and pray that I can also help you through, even if it's not MS, if it's lupus, Sjogren's, fibromyalgia, RA, all of these things that are getting us down, even cancer, all of these things, infectious issues with parasites, can be helped, can be healed, can be eliminated. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm saying it's doable. And there's still delicious, delicious, lots of things to eat out there that we get to eat, and we get to take care of our health, take care of ourselves, take care of our family, and enjoy life. And just, I don't know what else to say, but I've already said way too much. So God bless you, and just have a beautiful day. reach out to me and I'll do my best to be there.